The wind that night wasn't just cold, it was merciless. It rushed down the empty street like a living thing, sharp enough to sting skin and steal breath. Nadia pulled her thin coat tighter around herself, but it barely helped. The fabric was worn, the lining long gone, and her scarf, more symbolic than functional, fluttered like a defeated flag around her neck. Her son, little Sammy, clung to her side with both middenless hands. His fingers were freezing, she could feel it even through the coat she tried to wrap around him. His teeth chattered in rapid, uneven bursts, each tremble punching a hole in her heart. "Mama," he whispered, lips pale. "It's so cold." "I know, baby." She rubbed his arms, trying to generate warmth with nothing but her palms in desperation. "The bus will be here soon. Just hold on for me, okay?" She glanced down the road, nothing but darkness. The street lamp above them flickered like it was on its last breath, barely illuminating the cracked pavement beneath their feet. Everything around them felt abandoned, forgotten, like even the city had gone home for the night and left them behind. Her phone vibrated weakly in her pocket. 1% battery, no buses tracked, no rides available, no money for a cab anyway. She swallowed hard. Sammy's head leaned against her stomach, his small body trembling violently with each gust of wind. She rubbed his back again and again, forcing her hands to keep moving even though her own fingers were turning stiff. They shouldn't have been out this late. She knew that, but her shift at the diner had gone long, again. Half her coworkers had called out, business was unexpectedly heavy, and her manager had asked her to stay, just an extra hour. She didn't have the luxury to say no, not when rent, school fees, and groceries all depended on every minute she worked. "Just stay awake for me, sweetheart," she whispered. His eyes were drooping, exhaustion dragging his tiny body downward. "Don't fall asleep, stay with mommy." She hugged him closer, shielding him as best she could from the wind. He curled into her, shivers running through him in waves. Then she heard it, the slow hum of an engine. Her head jerked up. A black pickup truck rounded the corner and slowed as it approached. Her heart hammered. This part of town wasn't exactly friendly at night, and she instantly stepped in front of Sammy, using her own body as a barrier. The truck paused a few meters away. The window rolled down. A man leaned out. His voice, when he spoke, wasn't rough or threatening. It was warm, gentle, tired. "You two okay out here?" Nadia stiffened, her hand instinctively going behind her to feel her son. "We're fine," she said quickly. "Just waiting for the bus." The man glanced behind her at the deserted road, then at Sammy, then at her thin jacket. His brows lowered, concern settling in. "This route," he said softly. "The last bus already passed." Her heart sank. She didn't show it, couldn't. She lifted her chin. "We'll manage." The man opened his door. Nadia took a half step back, fear flaring, but he moved slowly, hands visible, posture none-threatening. He wasn't tall, but broad, built like someone who spent his days lifting heavy things. His jacket was thick, padded, clearly warm. There was a name patch stitched above the chest pocket. "Daniel." He walked forward slowly, stopping a respectful distance away. "I don't mean to bother you," he said, voice steady, "but your son looks freezing." "You look freezing." Sammy let out a weak whimper and clung even tighter to Nadia's coat. Daniel's expression softened. Not pity, something deeper. Recognition. "I'm a single dad," he said quietly. "I know what it looks like when a parent is trying to be strong for their kid." Nadia's breath hitched, but she said nothing. Daniel didn't ask permission again. He didn't hesitate. He simply shrugged off his heavy work jacket, thick, insulated, clearly built for nights just like this, and stepped forward. Before she could protest, he wrapped it around both her and Sammy. The warmth hit like a wave. Sammy melted into the jacket instantly, releasing a tiny sigh that nearly broke her heart in two. The jacket swallowed them both, enormous on her shoulders, warm enough to chase away the sharp bite of the wind in seconds. But now Daniel stood in nothing but a thin hoodie, and the wind hit him full force. Nadia's eyes widened. "No, you'll freeze. Take it back." But Daniel shook his head. "Kids first," he said simply. He stepped closer, gently pulling the jacket edges around her and Sammy so no wind could sneak in. Then, without thinking about himself, he crouched in front of them. His arms came around the outside of the jacket, sealing the warmth in completely, using his own body as a shield. Nadia froze. His arms were strong, steady, yet his touch was respectful, careful, like he didn't want to scare her. "You don't have to do this," she whispered. Daniel's teeth were already beginning to chatter, but he offered a soft smile anyway. Yeah, I do. For a long moment, the world went quiet except for the howl of the wind and the sound of Daniel's steady breathing. He held them close, absorbing the cold so they didn't have to. His body trembled, but his arms didn't loosen. Sammy's shivering slowly eased. He peeked out from the folds of the huge jacket, staring at Daniel with sleepy, innocent eyes. "Mommy, he's warm," Sammy murmured, voice muffled. Daniel chuckled under his breath despite the cold. "Glad to hear it, buddy." Nadia felt a lump rise in her throat so painfully she could barely swallow. No stranger had ever done something like this for her. Not in years. Not since Sammy was born. Why are you helping us?" she whispered, voice cracking. Daniel's answer was simple. "Because you look like someone who's been strong for too long." His gaze shifted to Sammy. "And because no kid should be this cold." The words sank into her chest like a bomb and a wound all at once. For the first time in months, maybe longer, someone saw her. Not the tired waitress trying to make ends meet. Not the woman who apologized for existing whenever she asked for help. Not the mother pretending she wasn't scared. Just her. And it took every ounce of strength not to cry. The three of them huddled together under the flickering street lamp, wrapped in one oversized jacket and the warmth of a stranger who suddenly didn't feel like a stranger at all. When Daniel spoke again, his voice was soft but certain. "It's okay," he murmured, tightening his arms just a bit. "You're not alone tonight." And for the first time in a long time, Nadia believed it. The bus finally arrived with a groan, its headlights slicing through the dark like tired eyes forced awake. Snow clung to its sides, and the engine rattled as though protesting the cold. Nadia adjusted the enormous jacket around Sammy, lifting him carefully into her arms. His head slumped against her shoulder, warm now, breathing softly. Daniel stood up slowly from where he'd been shielding them. He wiped frost from his eyelashes, though his arms still trembled from giving away his only protection. The thin hoodie he wore was dusted with snowflakes, already damp from the wind. "You should take this back," Nadia insisted, tugging at the jacket wrapped around her and her son. "You're freezing." But Daniel shook his head with a tired half-smile. "He needs it more than I do." "You'll get sick." "Maybe," he admitted with a shrug. "But if I drove away and left you two shivering, I wouldn't sleep tonight." There was no heroism in his voice, just honesty, the quiet kind that comes from someone who's had to choose between comfort and compassion more times than he'd like. The bus driver opened the doors, frowning at the sight of them. "You getting in or not?" "I can't stay long, roads are freezing." Nadia nodded and stepped forward, but before she boarded, she turned back to Daniel. He was rubbing his arms now, trying to warm himself, breath fogging in uneven bursts. His lips were turning pale. "Please, take the jacket back," she whispered again, guilt tightening around her ribs. Daniel looked at her gently. "A jacket won't ruin me," he said. "But a night like this could ruin him." Sammy stirred at the sound of his voice and reached out one sleepy hand toward Daniel. "Thank you," the boy murmured. Daniel's eyes softened with a warmth that didn't match the weather at all. "Anytime, buddy." Nadia climbed onto the bus, the warm interior kissing her frozen cheeks. She took a seat near the back, positioning her son across her lap, pulling Daniel's jacket tightly around them both. As the bus began to pull away, she looked out the window. Daniel hadn't left. He was still there on the sidewalk, hands shoved into his pockets, watching the bus until he saw her safely seated. Only when their eyes met through the glass did he give a small nod and turn toward his truck. It was such a simple gesture, but it made her chest ache in a way she hadn't felt in years. The bus jerked forward, tires struggling on the icy road, and soon the city swallowed them up in blurred lights and falling snow. Sammy slept soundly, his tiny fingers curled into the fabric of the jacket like it belonged to him. That night, when they finally made it home, Nadia hung the jacket over a chair. It took hours to dry, but she washed it carefully the next morning anyway, by hand, because her apartment's washing machine rattled like it was trying to explode whenever she used it. She folded the jacket neatly. And then she surprised herself. She went back to the bus stop. Not because she had to. Because she hoped he would come. It was early evening when the familiar black pickup truck rolled up. Nadia's heart thudded harder than she expected. Daniel stepped out, rubbing the back of his neck awkwardly when he saw her holding the jacket. "You didn't have to wash it," he said, the corner of his mouth lifting in a shy smile. "I wanted to." She held it out to him. "And I wanted to thank you properly." He blinked, like he wasn't used to receiving gratitude. You already did, he said quietly. No, she insisted. I didn't. They stood there for a moment, the cold air swirling around them but somehow feeling less harsh than before. Then she said the words she had debated all day. Can I buy you a coffee? Daniel hesitated a second, just 1 second, then nodded. Yeah, I'd like that. The coffee shop was small, tucked into the corner of an old plaza, its windows fogged from warmth inside. The moment they stepped in, heat enveloped them, and Sammy, holding Nadia's hand, brightened instantly, eyeing the pastries behind the glass display. Daniel ordered him a hot chocolate before she could protest. You didn't have to. I know, he said, smiling. But I wanted to. They sat at a corner table. The glow of the shop's hanging lights reflected in the warm, amber color of Daniel's eyes. He cradled his coffee mug with hands rough from work, hands of a man who lived life using them. They talked. For minutes at first, then hours. Daniel told her he worked construction, took every overtime shift he could, and had a 7-year-old daughter named Lily whom he adored more than his own life. He told her about the nights he'd counted change from his glove compartment to afford dinner. The mornings he'd dropped Lily off at school with 2 hours of sleep because he couldn't find a sitter. Nadia found herself opening up too. About raising Sammy alone, about working double shifts, about her fear of failing her son, about everything she never said to anyone because she always had to be strong. Do you ever feel, she whispered, tracing the rim of her mug, like you're running on empty, but you have to keep going because your kid is watching? Daniel's eyes met hers, steady and understanding. Every damn day. Their laughs came easier after that. So did their silences, the comfortable kind, not the awkward ones. Days passed. Weeks followed. Daniel began appearing at the bus stop more often, not always in his truck. Sometimes he came on foot, sometimes with Lily in tow, who immediately took to Sammy like they were long-lost friends. They would run circles around the bus shelter while Daniel and Nadia talked, about everything and nothing. He fixed her kitchen drawer without being asked. She brought him homemade soup when he caught a cold from giving up his jacket that night. He taught Sammy how to skip stones. She braided Lily's hair before school. Little by little, two struggling single parents became something like a team. One late evening, snow falling softly around them, Daniel walked beside Nadia on their way home, their kids trotting ahead, laughing. You know, he said quietly, hands shoved in his pockets, I meant what I said the night we met. She looked up at him. Which part? That you're not alone. Her breath caught. The kids ran ahead, leaving faint footprints behind them like a trail only the four of them could follow. Nadia tightened her arm around Daniel's jacket. Her jacket now, he insisted, he'd given it to Sammy 1 week earlier, claiming, it looks better on him. Snowflakes landed on Daniel's hair, melting instantly. He looked at her the same way he had looked at her that first night, soft, steady, as if he saw right through the pain she hid and didn't flinch from it. She swallowed, her voice barely a whisper. I know. For the first time in years, the cold didn't scare her. Because some winters are survived not by fires or blankets, but by the warmth of two people who find each other when life is coldest. And on that snowy street, with their children laughing ahead of them, Nadia realized she wasn't just surviving anymore. She was beginning to live again.